Good morning and a very warm welcome to the Eit Health Catapult Semi-Finals 2021. My name is Alison Munro and it is my great pleasure to host our press event. Now, yesterday and today and tomorrow, we met and we will be meeting the best of the healthcare startups in Europe today. Catapult is an outstanding programme of training and competition to boost the development of the most promising startups in healthcare in Europe. And for the last months, 40 disruptive startups have been working from the biotech, medtech and digital to work extremely hard and receive high-level quality of training in both business modelling, investment strategies, deal negotiation and pitch training. And we are all eager to meet them. And we wish to express our congratulations to all of the startups for their commitment, their hard work and their talent to have made it through to the semi-finals. This is quite an amazing accomplishment. And to everybody today who is joining this call from across Europe, academics, health professionals, investors, we are very, very pleased to welcome you and thank you for joining us. These semi-finals give us all a unique opportunity, of course, to meet the startups, and we all have access to discuss, to connect and to network. And of course, collaborations, everybody is looking to meet and to make collaborations with strong partners to take the next steps forward. So our inspiring journey began yesterday, it continues today and tomorrow, and we invite everyone to join us and have a fantastic time. And today, of course, is Medtech Day. We have an exciting mix of 14 startups from the Medtechs, the top Medtechs in Europe. Each startup will have 5 minutes to pitch, followed by 5 minutes of questions with our exciting and interesting and international jury. We will also have short, inspiring keynotes, 3 in fact, providing us with insights into the healthcare innovation today. And of course, multiple opportunities to network, to meet, to connect, and to start many conversations. Please join our matchmaking platform to schedule sessions between yourself and the startups. And this afternoon, between 3:10 Central European Time and 4:30 Central European Time, you can book appointments. At 5 o'clock this afternoon, Central European Time, of course, we will announce the winners at our exciting awards ceremony. So stay with us to learn who's going to make it through to the finals. There will be plenty of breaks also to have coffee, make conversations, get fresh air, and of course, take on board these amazing stories we will discover today. Of course, we wish to thank important people, and we wish to start first to thank our sponsors. Now, first of all, we would like to thank first of all our partners, the great teams who have invested energy, time, enthusiasm to provide this prestigious event. That is our great friends at Eit Health, Cap Digital, Medical Valley and Beyond RN. And of course, we want to thank particularly our sponsors. We wish to thank particularly AstraZeneca, Amazon Web Services, EG Technology, Luciadas, McDermott, Will and Emery, Merck and Nasdaq. More will be revealed about their prizes later on. And now it is a pleasure to welcome our international jury panel. Now the panel have a high level of expertise from renowned institutions. They've got wide expertise right across the board of venture capital, equity investment, technical sector, of course, and they have a challenging and daunting task of choosing those winners later today. They will be considering the level of innovation, the impact, the investment potential, and the startup's development strategies. So let's take a look to get to know them a little better. We will meet today Dr. Aidan Flanagan, he's an R&D fellow from Boston Scientific. Simon Turner, a partner at Sofinova Partners. Veronique Vermeeren, principal at IMEX Expand. Neil Thomas, a partner at Ventac Partners. Danielle Starr, managing partner at TDJ Pitango Ventures. Dr. Nana Bitavragim, founder of iHospital InnoLab, and Claudio Feiju, the Rector's Delegate for Entrepreneurship at the Université Politécnica de Madrid. Thank you to all our jury members for being with us, and we hope you will enjoy this enlightening and exciting day. A few words about some practicalities, of course, as we are broadcasting live. Please also remember to refresh the page if you lose the current live feed. For optimum viewing, click on the bottom right corner to be able to have a maximum full screen view. And if you want to pause or play, just click in the middle of your screen. And to optimize network meetings this afternoon, please favor Google Chrome browser. And of course, we are very keen to hear your thoughts and your opinions, to see your photos, hear your conversations through the hashtag EITH Catapult. Of course, there is still plenty of time to book the one-to-one matchmaking meetings. Please go ahead and do so now and throughout the day. And now I am very pleased indeed to hand over to the Director of Business Creation at Eit Health, Kurt Höller. Kurt, good morning.
Good morning, Alison. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you this morning, Kurt?
Very good. Excited.
Yep, absolutely. Another exciting day ahead. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Alison. Indeed, good morning to everyone. And I hope you're as excited as I am to see 14 new startups in the Medtech area. So it has been already an impressive day yesterday. You might remember we had Alexander Belkredi and Holger Kissel with us. Alexander was the founder of Phagomate, or one of the co-founders of Phagomate, and they sold their company right after they have pitched here at our Eit Health Catapult, and they got second winner in the biotech category last year. So within the last 12 months, they have sold their company to BioNTech, a company that all of you will know due to the pandemics. But BioNTech also Holger explained on behalf of BioNTech, that they are not focusing only on vaccines, but also on different technologies. And that's why they were super interested in Phagomate and their new treatment for fighting bacteria. So that was also a great day of pitches, and we got great winners from various countries. And today we will do the same. The winners, as you know, will go to Stockholm in order to pitch at the live stage. So that's also the reason why this year the semifinals are not in autumn, but in winter, beginning of December now. Last year we had the finals kind of exactly at the same time where we have the semifinals right now. We decided to postpone the finals and our whole summit to May in order to meet in person again. Hopefully everyone will be able to come to the finals in person in Stockholm in May 24th and 25th. But now we will meet here online again, like we already did last year, to have the semifinals. That gives a lot of participants, a lot of investors, the possibility to join remotely without any need to travel. But before I hand over, or before we introduce to the Catapult, let me say a few words about Eit Health and our success so far. As you can see here on that slide, and actually it's not a real slide, it's a screenshot that I took from our startup database, startups.eithealth.eu. So if you're interested to check out some of our startups that we have supported so far, please just log in on that platform. So I did a screenshot a couple of days ago, and there you can see a couple of interesting things. First, you can see the overall number of startups that we have supported so far. More than 1,000 startups, 1,156. That was the latest number. So that's the number of startups that we have supported since our beginning in 2015. You can see on the map that we are supporting not companies only in a few countries. We are supporting startups all over Europe. Basically, in every European country, we have identified good startups that have been worth being supported by Eit Health. And on the bottom left, you can see a very nice chart that shows you that the companies that we have supported were able to raise impressive amounts of investments, private investments and grants. So you can see that in 2019, 2020, they have been already raising 300 million euro overall per year. And 2021 certainly is our most successful year. There you can see that, that the investment raised was more than 700 million euro so far. And I'm pretty sure that number will even increase till end of the year. On the next screenshot I did, you can also see the overall valuation of Eit Health supported companies. You can see two things. First, the overall amount has increased a lot. Since 2015, where we started with a couple of 100 million euro of overall value of the startups that we have supported. Of course, it have been a few. You can now see that it's a much higher number. If you look to the light red versus the dark red, you can see that most of the companies, or the highest part of that overall value, comes from companies that have been created within the last 5 years. So basically within Eit Health existence. But that also shows you that if you create a company now, it doesn't take you 10 years to make it big. That can happen actually rather quickly if you're in the right spot, especially if you're in the area of Medtech and digital health, but also in biotech. That actually now happens a lot. If we look to the next slide, I just want to show you that the companies that we have supported so far actually have also some individual companies have grown a lot. Eit Health just got now in the league of the first European health unicorns. Then you also can see companies like Orkin that we have supported through our gold track, or Sparing Vision, Loop. They have been participants in our health Catapult, and Sparing Vision was our superstar last year because they have raised right after winning the biotech finals the year before. They have raised 44 million euro, more than 44 million euro. So that was a great success that we celebrated last year. Now let's have a look into the Catapult. So some of you will know that the Catapult doesn't start with the semifinals. Of course, there is a very comprehensive and heavy process upfront. So startups apply in writing. There's a jury selecting the top proposals and inviting those startups to regional pitches. Then in these regional pitches in front of a jury, of course, that also happened online this year. These startups are tested, and only the top 2 per category are put forward to the semifinals. We have 7 regions, so 7 times 2 startups that proceed makes 14 startups in total. And then here in the semifinals, we have the biotech semifinal that happened already yesterday. Medtech is happening today. Digital health is happening tomorrow. We are already preparing the companies intensively through a so-called super mentoring. And that super mentoring also lasts until the finals. That will happen next year in May 24th, 21st in Stockholm. So that's kind of the process of Catapult. Just a few numbers. Now we are in our 6th edition. So the Catapult is existing for 6 years now. We have supported in our semifinals through the very intensive mentoring 231 companies up to date. These companies have raised more than 400 million euros so pretty successful. Also, the audience is rather large. We had more than 3,500 participants, usually corporates, Eit Health partners, but also 500 investors in total that have registered and signed up to join our Catapult. Two of our winners have been already acquired, and the most impressive number for me, we have participants from overall 47 countries. So really an international, truly international competition. And I already mentioned Sparing Vision, Florence, who has raised 44.5 million euro right after winning the biotech finals in 2019. And that's Valuation, the company that I also mentioned that was acquired by BioNTech, also right after winning the second place in the biotech funds. So that's some introductory slides. And now I'm delighted to invite Chatflow on the stage to have a little chat with me about the overall situation of medtech investments in Europe. Chat is one of our supervisory board members at Eit Health. He joined us recently, but he is really a truly global person. I would say he has lived almost everywhere. At least if you read through his CV, you can see that he has a footprint not only in the US, where he's coming from, but also UK. And currently, Chad, you're calling in from Dubai, right? Where you are partner at TVM Capital Healthcare and taking care of attracting funding for startups also from the Emirates. Chad, good morning. How are you doing? How is it in Dubai?
It's hard to tell Europeans how nice it is here at the moment. It's lovely, thanks. Very nice to connect with you, Kurt. I'm delighted to be here today. Yeah, I very recently joined the supervisory board of Eit Health, and a quick word on that. I think it's part of my very long career as investment banker and private equity partner to find an organization like Eit Health, which stimulates, supports, and helps to finance innovation in Europe. So I'm delighted.
Thank you so much. Yeah, indeed. So you bring in the investment expertise into the supervisory board, and that's also the reason why we invited you today for this opening, to give us some insights about the investment ecosystems and how actually we deal in Europe with that. So first question that I have to you, is there actually enough money in the market to invest also into the early and mid-stage companies that we will see today here at the Medtech semifinals?
Well, the world is full of liquidity. There's zero doubt about that. So there's plenty of capital in the world. I think some of the issues that European startups have faced since I came back to Europe in 1989 are, the experience of raising early stage money, the fruition to exit. So those issues, and we can talk about that in a little bit more detail, are, some of those remain. It's not a question of overall liquidity. It's a question of specific liquidity for startups. And the hope of a day like today and yesterday and tomorrow is channeling available liquidity into the best companies and opportunities ahead. But no question about overall liquidity.
That's a good starting point. So now, how well is the European innovation ecosystem, especially in that area of medtech, positioned to attract also large investments? What do you say there?
Well, I continue to think that the science base in Europe and if you like, the broader ecosystem for this remains excellent. And I come from Boston, from MIT experience and so on. I've seen a lot of what happened successfully there. Europe has not matched that in the sense of its fruition, but I would say particularly in medtech, the opportunity is outstanding. I think particularly of the DACH region, but also the UK, Scandinavia, France. I mean, all over the opportunities for medtech are excellent, based on the history and the science base that we have in Europe. Kurt, you can redirect the question, but the opportunity is clearly there. I think where we get into some struggles, most medtech companies anyway sell rather than go onto the public markets. But if you take a little look at the exit routes for life sciences generally, including medtech, the opportunities in the European public markets, in the late stage growth capital, and even those that have gone to NASDAQ have been challenging. The dream of many life science companies is now laterally, because of additional liquidity and comparable companies, to go to NASDAQ. But in fact, the majority of them trade under their IPO values, have failed to get liquidity. So this is a challenge ahead that remains, and the European stock markets, have also not managed to hold liquidity for a lot of the companies. Of course, there are exceptions, and BioNTech and the mRNA companies, lead the pack. We've seen Valneva, trade up greatly, and so on and so forth. But in general, that is one of the challenges. And the hope is, by choosing champions this way, the way that we're doing today, that we can create, a better spurt of these kinds of companies towards liquidity, like Phagomed and others. I strongly believe in that, but there's no doubt of some of the challenges that remain.
Thank you. That would already be a great transition to the next keynote speaker, Nicholas Holdberg, who will speak from Nasdaq. So he's the director of all the European listings at Nasdaq, and he will speak about an IPO in Europe. But we're not there yet. Let's further look at, and you already touched on that, on the difference between Europe and the US. And of course, both worlds very well. So how is the European ecosystem equipped, and is it equipped well enough to compete with the US? You already touched upon the scientific excellence that we see in Europe, and a bit the backlog of investments. But in general, also looking into 2022, do we get closer or do we get further away? What's your impression?
Well, I'm sure we get closer. I'm sure there's progress, and success stories that come through are going to encourage that progress. The fact is, capital is mobile, and it goes where it gets its best returns at lowest risks. I think the fundamentals remain very strong for starting and encouraging companies in Europe. In general, early stage companies have attracted less capital, more measured capital into their balance sheets, than in the U.S. And so I think larger dollops of capital into these companies is going to be very helpful. But that capital comes on the other side of exit opportunities and belief in liquidity events that may happen in the successive years. So it has to tie together. I think the more success stories that we have, the more management teams that have proven themselves that they can take a company through several stages, management teams that have been through tough times and show themselves to be resilient and successful. In Europe, there's probably viewed to be a deeper pool of those management teams in the U.S., and there's been a certain brain drain of Europeans that have gone to the U.S. as a result, or transformed their companies to go to the U.S. in order to position themselves better for that. So I think progress along those lines, liquidity events, exit success stories, strong management teams remaining in Europe, and we see them, will encourage the sort of cycle of investment, maturity, liquidity that will continue to attract capital. and I don't only mean to talk about the public markets or venture or growth. I also mean in terms of exits to strategics. And there are a number of very strong, strategic medtech players in Europe who are combing the ground looking for breakthrough technologies. And that's also very important. As I say, globally, exits for medical technology companies, diagnostics to IT and so on, have been to strategics rather than to the public markets. So this will no doubt continue. But I think these cycles with large Europeans and the partners of EIT, there are a number of them there, that offer additional visibility to the sort of winners that we're going to have today. That's also an important part of the ecosystem that will produce success, additional capital and liquidity.
So that's a point that I also would like to touch upon. So on the one hand, we know that if you look to the Boston area, everything is very intense. Everything is very close. People know each other. That is, of course, much more difficult in a broad European system. The second topic is the single market that you have in the US. So we have one large market that you can immediately address. In Europe, you have a fragmented reimbursement system. Regulatory is also not always that easy. How important is a network like Eit Health and the visibility that we can give to startups, but also beyond the visibility, the advice, the coaching to get into the different reimbursement systems. So how important is a network like ours for young companies to succeed?
Well, that's why I'm here. Is I believe it's very important, and I believe that continuing to work on that in terms of visibility for these companies, attraction of capital is extremely important. But you quickly touched upon the regulatory side and the complexities of operating in Europe and in intrinsically smaller markets and so on. So I do think that the more that of amalgamation of regulatory approvals and so on can be brought forward to help to make it a little less challenging, will no doubt help over time. But the facts are that we do have discontinuous regulatory patterns to a degree in Europe, and those are going to remain. I'm convinced, again, that the visibility that Eit Health, with its very, very broad set of partners, is a great strength, is an opportunity for everyone to come into these kinds of competitions and be promoted in its way, in their ways, each of them. As a way to highlight a sort of a screening, encouragement, backing from our kind of organization. And so I'm new, but I strongly believe and hope it will continue.
Super. So that's super encouraging to all participants and startups today. You already mentioned NASDAQ, and therefore I'm very much looking forward also myself now to the keynotes and the expert insights from my friend Niklas together with Karsten. But in order to introduce them properly, I will hand back to Alison. Thank you so much, Chad, for this nice morning chat. And see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kurt. Thank you, Chad. And we are now going to welcome our two speakers for the first of our expert insights, something that every startup will consider and needs to find out about is what are the success factors for an early stage healthcare IPO? Well, to tell us all about that, let's welcome from NASDAQ, the Managing Director of Global Listing Services, Niklas Holdberg, and the Head of Listings in Denmark, Karsten Boring.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this session. My name is Niklas Holdberg. I'm responsible for the company listed on the Swedish Stock Exchange, our main market, and also NASDAQ First North that we're going to hear a little bit more about. But I'm not here alone. I'm also here with Karsten Boring, so please introduce yourself.
Yeah, as said, my name is Carsten Boring, and I'm head of listing and capital markets in Copenhagen. But Niklas and I are working together with all the listed companies here in Europe and bringing them to one of our markets in the Nordic region that Nicholas will tell a little bit more about here in the introduction.
So why is this important for you listening today is that you probably know there's a lot of healthcare company aim to raise capital, and the number of specialized VC, the number of specialized fund is not enough, not even close to support all the company that aim for raising capital to support the growth journey. So here today we're going to talk about that might be a little bit a road that you not heard about before to go public in early stage. So just I will start to give you a story. 2016, in the beginning of April, I met the CEO, Erik Gartenholm, for Cellink. They were early stage company. They were very clear about the strategy. They aimed to list the company on NASDAQ First North, our growth market, and they were targeting the US market. A little bit later this year, they actually went public with a pre-money valuation of 12 million euro, raising 3 million euro. As you probably understand, this is a small company listed with NASDAQ, but they have a very clear strategy. Today, this company, 5 years later, have a market cap of 2 billion euro. They have been able to go back to the market 7 times to raise new capital, and they have made acquisition in Canada, US, and Germany. So what we're going to talk about a little bit the advantage of going public early. So you probably heard about NASDAQ. We're on the stock exchange in the US. They heavily competed with the New York Stock Exchange, and we are happy to say that we have a win rate of 75%. But we also run the stock exchange in the Nordic and Baltics. And what we see, the dynamic, what we have in the Nordics, that you have a potential to go public early. I'm not going to go through these numbers, but we have the best market in terms of listings, in terms of raising capital. So we are the leading SME market in Europe. So again, when you consider to go early to the capital market, to the public way, there's a lot of questions that you need to ask yourself. First, you must understand that you're going to be a public company. So that means that you need to have a structure and a strategy for communication. So when we're talking about NASDAQ First North, our growth market, multi-trading platform, is about not just raising capital, but also use the public market for your growth journey. So it's not really an exit market. With that said, of course, NASDAQ don't have any rules in terms of exit. So first, before you even consider looking into the NASDAQ rules, you need to understand, is my IPO story good enough? So when me and Carsten meet companies all the time, we of course give them ideas about the rules and how to prepare the company, but quite early in the stage, we want them to meet the financial advisors. So what we're actually doing that, depending on the size of the company, depending on the size of transaction, depending on in which area are you a digital health company or a Medtech company, biotech, we try to introduce it to the right advisors. Again, we are NASDAQ, so we're independent, so we will never say, go along with that advisor, but we will kind of open up the doors for you. So after having 4 or 5 of this meeting, you will understand if this public road, if you are there right now, or if the advisors believe that you will come a little bit further before IPO is important for you. So in the beginning is quite much about finding the right board members, because remember that it's not just about your technology or your service or your product. You're also going to be in terms of valued in terms of the board members and the management. And especially if you're a young company and you're a young team, even more important to have the experience within the board. So that might take some time to find the best suitable board members to help you out as a public company. We also see more and more companies using the public market and NASDAQ for our brand. So going back again to Selling, the company that I started talking about, they wanted to enter the US market. The management team were around 28, 29 years old, but with having the credibility that comes with NASDAQ, it opened up doors. So they were able to talk to the university or hospitals. They will never ever enter if they were not a NASDAQ listed company. So again, they used the NASDAQ brand to open up a new market. We also see a lot of companies coming to our market because they have a buy and build strategy. So what we see right now, the investors and the advisors are very keen to support you if you believe that you have a buy and build strategy. But remember, if you decide to go early to the capital market, to the public market, you need to know your best friends, your investors. So you're more unsecured, you're more bumpy, your road's going to be, you're more important for you is to understand who are your investors, who are the ones that will support you if you're delayed with a product or a service, if Corona happens or something else. So, because they are the one that if you're for a quarter result, if you are not, deliver on the expectation, they will not push the sell button. They will actually see an opportunity to buy more shares. So using the public market for growth have been amazing. And this year in the Nordic, we have listed more than 175 companies in the Nordic. And around 70% of those companies are listed on NASDAQ First North, our growth market. So we are for sure the leading exchange for SMEs. And what we have done since 3-4 years ago, we tried to see if we can attract so many Nordic companies. We understand that there are so many European company and maybe non-European company that will be very suitable for us. So we put together a strategy. So now we have financial advisors, legal advisors, investors that are ready to support you in terms of a growth journey. So now I will hand over to you, Karsten, to talk a little bit with your fantastic background and your knowledge within the healthcare space. Please go ahead.
Thank you. And it's gonna be a quick deep dive within the healthcare sector because we have not that much time, but we have quite a few slides, but you will have the slides afterwards, so don't be disappointed. But this is what it was all about, healthcare. And this is how we divide it within our sectors here at NASDAQ and in all other countries or exchanges around the world. And that's very important to remember because it's exactly the same way to sector all the companies down in different boxes. So when you are listed here in medical equipment, for instance, 4535, you as an investor, you can tap in these numbers and you will find all the companies in the world which belong to this kind of sector that are similar to you. So back to what Niklas said, it's very important to be visible for us. We know there's 1,000 ways to get capital now today, and there's a lot of capital, but you need to look beyond your capital needs when you go listing. As Niklas said, it's visibility, it's trustworthy, it's a lot of things when you consider going public. And right now we have more than 200 healthcare companies listed here in the Nordic region. That maybe doesn't sound a lot, but you have to compare to that we are about 20 million people here in the Nordic region. So we are small in in number of people, but we are very big in number of companies. So if you take the next, this is just to show how the First North market has gone from the beginning. We are more than 500 companies right now. So you can say this is half year. Now we are about I think we have 520 companies now. It's going fast, and there's a lot of companies going in. So next. This is where we go into the healthcare. You could see that we have listed, and Niklas told us that it is more than 120 companies this year. On the healthcare side, it's more than 20 companies. It's on 25 companies. And that's very important to bear in mind that you are not alone on the journey if you go public on healthcare. So there will be a lot of investors knowing what is going on. And it is amazing to see how the risk appetite among retail investors and institutional investors has risen over the last couple of years to embrace your growth journey as a biotech company. Because going from invention to the market with your product, it will cost you a lot of money. And it will be at some point, you will either be sold to a big biotech company and fit in there, or you have to go the journey and raise a lot of capital. And that's why the exchange can follow you all the way. Next. This is then again, just maybe it's a hidden secret for many people, because 200 companies, 72 companies in the biotech company. Now we're taking a deeper dive into the biotech sector. We have more than 70 biotech companies here in the Nordic region. But this is the market cap, and it's maybe a hidden secret that we are the biggest exchange in Europe. We all know that we are the biggest exchange in the world with Nasdaq Biotech Index in the US, but it's a hidden secret for many European that the Nordic region are so good at biotech here in Denmark and Sweden and Finland. Next. And then you think, how big should I be? And that's very good to look at. And here we have the 50 smallest companies that have been listed within healthcare in the last couple of years. And you can see it's 10 million, it's 15 million in market cap for a healthcare company. And a lot of companies you have a more or less a way through phase something, or you are preclinical or whatever you are, you will easily reach this market cap. And this market cap is including new money. So it's also, maybe it's only half of the market value that is pre-money, and then you're raising on top 100% more money to go for a certain step on the journey. Next. This slide shows why we can attract so many healthcare companies. That's because you deliver a very good return to our investors. You can see the blue line. It's better than the flagship index in every country in the Nordic region, Finland, Sweden, and Denmark. Healthcare deliver the numbers. And that is the reason why we can get so many companies into to our exchange. And you can see on the next slide that is more or less what your European companies. You will easily go to Euronext, London, Oslo, or another country, but this is really shows that Nasdaq in the Nordic is really the biotech hub in Europe. And that's very important to bear in mind, because the investors will be more and more clever. They will ask the right questions. And it's also very important that you can raise capital the rest of your life, because you will need a lot of money to go public, and you will go to the market again and again and again. So it's not all about going public. It's all about going to the market. So if you have more questions, you're also always welcome to reach out to Niklas or me or the rest of the team, and we are happy to talk to you guys. But this is a beginning. Think it through. Is it something for you? Because there's a lot more into a listing than just capital. It's visibility and trustworthy for your partnerships in the future, and also for your employees.
And I just wanted to add that also me and Carsten will be happy to discuss if you have any ideas of going public in the US. Of course, you can start talking with me and Carsten, and we will try to support you with make you all the relevant intros. So either the Nordic market or the US market is Kirsten and me, so you can feel free to reach out. And we are both of us on LinkedIn. So just use our contact details, send us an email or use LinkedIn, and we will be happy to support you guys.
Thank you very much indeed, Niklas and Carsten, for joining us today. We now are going to Dublin to meet our second expert insight speaker to talk about the essential role, the human factor in medtech innovation. We are very happy to welcome the CEO of the Irish Platform for Patients' Organisations, Science and Industry, Derek Mitchell. Derek, the floor is yours. We will also, of course, be having a final third expert insight talk this afternoon before, of course, the awards ceremony. And throughout the day, we are going to have 4 different sequences where we are going to meet our pitches. Now, those pitches we know are the top, amongst the top medtechs in Europe today. We perhaps are going to discover, and certainly we will discover, some of them who will go into the finals in Stockholm in 2022, and even those who will become the champions of tomorrow. We will have a very strict timing for the session of pitching. Each startup will pitch for 5 minutes, which will then be followed by 5 minutes with the jury asking their questions. And at the end of the pitch and at the end of the Q&A, they then will mark the pitches in their notes. So let's now go over to Dublin to meet Derek Mitchell. Derek, good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay? Great.
Very well, Derek. Over to you.
Thanks ever so much for the invitation to join you this morning. It's very exciting to see some of the semi-finalists, and I'm here to talk to you about how patient input and patient experience can be incorporated into medtech. So I'll just get my slides going here. So one of the things about patient input and involvement in medtech is that the perceived wisdom, I think, over many years was that either patient engagement or involvement in medtech was either too expensive or too risky. And now I think instead of the risk of doing patient involvement, the risk is, the discussion is about how the risk of not doing patient involvement. And there's a couple of key factors in that. One is that certainly from the area of health research, the research funders have really emphasized that meaningful relationships with patient groups and individual patients are part and parcel of health research all around Europe. And we're seeing a direct correlation between the research that gets funded with high quality patient involvement. We're also seeing a good deal of work on patient education, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that later in the presentation. We're also seeing the whole area of real-world evidence and the need for an iterative cycle of data generation is generating expectations both from funders, but also regulators and indeed patients themselves. And indeed, the regulatory requirements are coming through in terms of the mandatory nature of patient involvement. So all of this is coming together in the need to really develop a framework for how the medtech industry can look at patient involvement throughout the life cycle of its products. So just as a quick recap about patient involvement, and we use the acronym PPI, and that's patient and public involvement. And there's a number of acronyms and a number of different descriptions of what we're talking about here. And I'd be clear that this is not about transparency to the public. It's about ensuring that patients and the public are involved in the design, the development, and the conduct of research and development all the way through from start to finish, but also help to communicate the benefits and the outputs of that to the public. So the reason why I'm here this morning is because my organization, IPOSI in Ireland, has been doing this for over 15 years. And we are a public-private partnership. We're founded by patients, we're patient-led in everything we do, but it's about creating spaces between patients and the other actors and stakeholders in the health innovation space. And our fundamental reason for being is to create the future generation of educated, involved, informed patient advocates, but to create spaces whereby they can become true, meaningful, full partners in the health innovation space. And what patient groups and patients really founded us on the basis is that we would generate impact within the system, that it's not just a kind of a reason for maybe a slightly tokenistic involvement of patients. It's about true involvement. And the reason why we create these spaces is because patients want to see more of these. It's very clear that the cohort of patients that we engage with, they're hugely motivated to get involved for a variety of different reasons. But those spaces are things that they get enormous benefit from, both personally and in terms of their groups, their advocacy. So this is just to give you a flavor of the types of spaces. We do everything from Dragon's Dens to citizen juries to we do mapping of patient opportunities within the health research and innovation space in Ireland. And we're working a lot with our European counterparts through initiatives like the European Patients Academy and other European projects. And I think it's fair to say within the medtech sector, it's there are a number of challenges to try and map where patient input would be of most impact in the development of medtech solutions. And some of these challenges are down to the sheer diversity of medtech. Historically, I think the primary customer has been the clinician or the healthcare professional, with hospital procurement, obviously a very important element of gaining access to market. But also, I think that there's been a wide variation in the way that regulators and companies view how PPI impacts on both the upstream and the downstream decision making. And thankfully, there's evidence coming through from other sectors that the earlier the engagement is, the higher the impact. But of course, everybody here is staring ahead and kind of trying to avoid this valley of death in the innovation cycle, where you need real due diligence to engage with stakeholders, to take on their input and make decisions to avoid that valley of death. And what I'm presenting to you today is that patient engagement at the earlier stage is becoming far, far more important for medtech, particularly those devices that are looking to go directly to patients as their primary user. So of course, the regulatory challenges from a medtech sector are increasing, both from a data collection perspective, but also in terms of that iterative side improvements. So the question is, how do we incorporate patient engagement into this iterative cycle? So I'm not going to compare apples and oranges here, but there are similarities that can be pulled from the medicine's life cycle. And on this slide is just an example of where it has been mapped out where patient input adds value to the life cycle. But it's fair to say that within that life cycle, the earlier the engagement, the higher the impact. So when you engage in the prioritization of the initial solution, the impact in terms of further downstream is coming through, and the evidence is coming through about this. And just to give you a flavor of some of the impacts, these range from everything from the cost of protocol amendments from clinical trials all the way to reprioritization of the original question. So thankfully, this evidence is now making the case and proving the case that early engagement works and actually improves the process. So hopefully that will avoid the valley of death. So the one point that I wanted to emphasize today is that the patient cohort, the patient community, is becoming much more structured in terms of its engagement with the innovation community. There are a vast number of patient groups who are creating mechanisms for not just collecting their own data, but also using and sharing that data with innovators to drive better decision making. And the patients that we engage with they're multiple types. They're from different areas. And IPOSI as an organization, we don't concentrate on individual disease-specific areas, but it's very clear from within our engagement with the medtech sector in Ireland, and there's a growing, strong medtech sector in Ireland, that the early engagement needs to be probably disease-specific. But thankfully, there's a lot of guidance now, and there's training for innovators and indeed researchers in the whole area of patient involvement. I'd like to highlight the work by the UPATI I've mentioned already, but also there's an innovative medicines initiative project called Paradigm, and there's some really useful tips about how you might go about doing this early engagement. But of course, in terms of it being an equal partnership, the patient community is a diverse community, and depending on your solution, you need to probably think about what kind of patients you're actually looking for. Are you looking to engage with patient groups or indeed with individual advocates? Invariably, you're looking for, I think in the medtech sector, it's typically around the patient pathway, what the experience is within either a healthcare setting or indeed in their daily lives. And the patients that we engage with are interested in interacting, but I think it's important that the innovators know just what the motivations are for an awful lot of people, and these are quite diverse. So it's really important that there's a fundamental education on both sides of, I think, the challenges from a medtech sector in terms of the kind of steps that you have to take, but also some of the roadblocks that are in place before you can actually bring a solution to market. But also education on the side of the innovators about some of these motivations, about why people want to get more involved and what kind of roles and responsibilities are being created for patients. Because I think fundamentally from our side, transparency and trust is absolutely key to maintain a very productive relationship. And these opportunities for patients and patient advocates are growing, and increasingly it's merging with the whole area of patient data. There's moves afoot within the European Commission and in Europe in general to make sure that health data can be more interoperable, that it can move. And there is a huge consensus that the citizen or the patient needs to be at the very, very heart of that in terms of consent mechanisms and models for where data can be used. So from our point of view, patients do need support. Patients do need to be supported in the roles that are there for them, and they need to be remunerated for these increasingly technical, increasingly there's quite a strong commitment involved for many of the patients. But what we're seeing from the results of our efforts in patient education is that there's an increased confidence, there's an increased willingness on people who have, I would call, just enough education to perform. It's not about creating professional patients or patients who are taking over the responsibilities of the innovators, but those who actually appreciate more the challenges that exist in the sector, why certain bodies act on behalf of patients, the more willing they are to engage with a sector that maybe they traditionally hadn't seen as part of their own world or their own lives. And so I guess today is about ideas, and it's about new ideas. And I guess in thinking about today, I had an idea about something that's been talked about a lot in the patient community around the medtech sector. And I think historically, I think there's been parallels driven with the pharmaceutical or the medicine sector. And I think that's probably not the way to go, in that I've seen a big shift in more recent years towards that earlier engagement and what I would define as probably the needs assessment area, in that I think traditionally there's been patient communities who have been historically neglected from the point of view of medtech, and primarily because the patient voice has not been listened to, or indeed the channels haven't existed whereby the patient voice could be listened to and acted upon by the medtech industry. So my big idea today is about a marketplace, a medtech marketplace for patients and with patients that would be designed, and possibly it's a challenge that might be for Eit Health to take on. But the idea would be that this would be a one-stop shop for patients who are interested in knowing more about the medtech industry. They would have access to a repository of involvement opportunities with those early stage startup innovators who are interested in developing meaningful relationships and creating solutions together. It's an opportunity for patients to see, I think, the myriad of challenges that exist and that lie in the way of trying to get these products to market. But it has to be built with patients, I think, harnessing that, I think, inherent innovative nature of patients. So that's my idea. If you build it with patients, certainly that they and the public in general will come. So that's my big pitch. And I wish everybody, in terms of the semi-finalists, every success in their future endeavors. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Derek, for talking to us about the patient's voice and for being here with us at Catapult. Hashtag EITH Catapult. That's the place to go to share your insights, have conversations, photos. And of course, our networking platform is the place to go to book meetings, those important and interesting meetings. We are now going to take a short break to meet up again at 10:30 Central European Time, and coming up after the break at 10:30, the start of our pitch sessions where we are going to meet the top medtechs in Europe today. So see you at 10:30.